All right, let's get into it right now. James Ashby, currently in Queensland in the man cave right now, none other than the lovely Linda Scott. I apologise, I've got a little bit of whatever's going on right now, but we'll power on. Okay, so this is what Giggles Miles had to say about any preference deal with One Nation. Roll of tape.
It has long been our practice to put the right-wing racist party One Nation last. And I intend to be highlighting to all of our multicultural communities how David Crisafulli is embracing the right-wing racist party One Nation. We've been putting One Nation last for 25 odd years. There have been times when there were LNP leaders who were principled enough to do the same thing. The current LNP leader clearly is not.
James, your response, not just as a candidate, but somebody who's been around One Nation for a very long time now.
Paul, do you remember 30-odd years ago when you'd go to the butcher and you'd say, give me a couple of lamb shanks, and the butcher would look at you as though you were taking them home to feed the dog, but meanwhile you're throwing them in the crock pot. No one needed to know that's what you ate. Fast forward 30 years and lamb shanks are a prime cut, and One Nation has become a very, very palatable party to vote for, just like those lamb shanks. We
nice.
are the best choice for so many people in Queensland. And look, we've been a good choice for people right across the country. We've now got elected members in every state across mainland Australia, so we must be doing something right. I think it was a cheap shot from Steven Miles. He is desperate, and One Nation are winning over a lot of those voters from Labor who just can't stomach the idea of voting for the LNP. Let's face it, the LNP and Labor have been on a unity ticket for at least the last 12 months in legislation. They voted for a treaty here in Queensland. They voted for higher coal royalties, the pair of them. They've passed so many bad choices, including Labor's budget, David Crisafulli voted for. So there's a lot of people that are saying, well, we can't stomach either of them, so we're going to vote for One Nation. So he's scared, he's worried, and a lot of people will continue to come One Nation's way over the next 3 weeks. Early voting starts in a week.
Now, Linda, you'd be more than happy with Labor's position over a long period of time. I would suggest that, One Nation has well and truly moderated from whatever the apparent problem was however long ago, but what do you think?
Well, look, I mean, really, One Nation's positions are a matter for James, but Steven Miles is right to highlight that 25 years ago, John Howard took the principled position of not preferencing One Nation, and that, by and large, has been a bipartisan position of both the major political parties in Australia for that 2.5-decade period. I think really the question for James is, what did he get for the electorate of Keppel for this preference deal that has allegedly been done with the Liberals? Are there any local benefits that you secured for your electorate, James? Do you support the LNP's policy on abortion, James? Why have you done the preference deal?
Crisafulli in the
they're going the low blow.
Was very clear that there's none of that changing, nor euthanasia as well. But again, I mean, my pushback here is the Greens have got so much worse than 4 years ago, right? They are in a much wilder place, yet never a controversy about Labor's relationship with them. Why not?
Well, when Labor does exchange preferences with the Greens, we have these policy discussions. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to ask James what he thinks about Crisafulli's abortion policies.
Which is to not change the law.
That's not right.
He's actually backed
that he
Labor.
wants to get rid of abortion in Queensland for Queensland.
Well, I love you, but
let me state
needs to answer this question.
Oh, look, I think it's gutless of David Crisafulli to stand by Labor's laws where they've allowed in Queensland here late-term abortion right up to the very day before a child is born. I think that's horrendous. And the simple fact that a child can be still born alive after a failed abortion and medical staff are forced to just leave it there and die on its own, no assistance. You're cruel, Linda, and so are all your Labor colleagues, and so too is David Crisafulli for standing by that legislation.
All right,
I agree, it's got to change. You're heartless, most heartless I've ever heard.
Okay, we've got a couple of other things to get to before we get to Shari, who is in Israel right now. So I won't go in and around those issues. But there was an interesting piece such a wanky word, column in the ABC where they're talking about how the middle class is really hurting right now. But welcome. I'm glad they've started watching this program. But they also make sort of a couple of interesting points about people like Kamala Harris who want to say, well, I'm middle class, or Kate Blanchett who claims to be middle class as well. I just want to step back and to the side here where, Linda, all of us are from somewhere. right? We all have that in our DNA about the types of houses or the types of families we used to be. But isn't the reality what we are today is, in the case of Kamala Harris, the Vice President, or Kate Blanchett, she's a millionaire, or in my case, I'm hosting a television show. So do you think that the average voter falls for the idea that, well, I know you're a millionaire now, but you used to be middle class?
Well, it's such a great question, isn't it? Because I love Kate Blanchett, but I think it's pretty hard for her to argue that she's middle class. I think we can all agree on that tonight. But I also think that you can be middle class in Australia or indeed around the world at the moment, and because of the global inflationary pressures, it's still difficult to afford things.
Mate,
and
the
it's
VC
why,
recipient selling his medals.
You know, it's why we've got to have these really important discussions about cost of living. It's why, again, James, you've got to tell us what you secured for the preference deal for your local electorate in Keppel in Queensland.
Wow. Okay.
We need to understand what elected leaders are going to do about cost of living relief for people, because it's a really important topic.
All right, well, I won't get into that, and let's just get to your bold prediction for the week ahead. James, what stands out for you, mate? What's definitely happening this week?
Look, more desperate play from Steven Miles. I noticed on his social medias today he's holding up a barramundi while talking about fishing in Moreton Bay. The fool doesn't even know that barramundi don't live that far south. And look, if you're desperate to try and chase the fishermen, you've got Buckley's, mate. You've shut down all the commercial fishing in Queensland and you're trying to take away the rights of recreational anglers. There's only one party that'll stand up for fishermen in Queensland. That's One Nation.
That is an odd message, man, and I love it. Linda, give me the 10-second version.
And I'll go for the Rabbitohs, but we've got to see the Panthers win tonight. Go the Panthers.
I'm not aware of any football being played right now. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you next week, guys.